Hello, beautiful souls, and welcome to Transforming 45. I'm your host, Lisa Boat. In this podcast, we dive deep into the transformative power of storytelling. I firmly believe that stories have the magical ability to heal, inspire, and connect us. That's why I'm here to bring you the incredible stories of women who have journeyed through life's ups and downs and emerged as their most authentic selves. We'll explore stories of resilience, reinvention, and the courage it takes to embrace change. It's a space where authenticity shines, where the messy and the beautiful moments of life come together to create something truly extraordinary. So, brilliant listeners, get ready for a roller coaster of emotions, a burst of inspiration, and a whole lot of love. Transforming 45 is not just a podcast, it's a movement, a celebration of incredible humans who light up the world. I'm so grateful you are here, and I can't wait to embark on this transformative journey with you. Let's dive in and start transforming together. Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of Transforming 45. This week, I am so excited to welcome Adrien Cotton. She is a wellness expert, and she embraces a holistic approach to wellness. Adrien focuses on the interplay of sleep health, stress tolerance, quality movement, food as fuel, and the alignment of calendar with core values. And there is so much goodness that we are going to get in today. My audience is very used to the menopause conversation. And what I love about what you're bringing to this conversation is all of the things that we can do, right?
Yeah.
All of the places where we have agency, which is so powerful. And I cannot wait to talk to you also about that last sentence of alignment of calendar with core values.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot.
Great.
There's a lot
Looking
there.
forward.
Welcome to the show. I'm so glad you're here.
I'm so happy to be here with you too.
That's great. So, Adrien, tell me, who are you and how did life introduce you to this?
Okay, so who I am, in my identity is I am a woman. I'm a 57-year-old woman.
Yes.
I am a wife, a mother, a parishioner in my church, and I am a coach. And my vocation in life is to help women understand that you do not have to struggle through menopause, that there are simple strategies that you can start to employ, preferably in your 30s, but you can be in your 70s or 80s and learn some new tricks that will make you feel better in your body.
Yeah, absolutely. It's such powerful work. And this is the theme of conversation that's been happening lately, is that it's so exciting that this conversation is happening.
It
right?
is.
And I just led a workshop just before I went away, and it was really powerful to see women coming together to have this conversation. And it is always striking to me how much we don't know and where we have agency, right? And so when you said preferably you should know about this in your 30s,
Yes.
I 100% agree with you. And even would say, you know, when we're learning about how the body functions in school, we need to learn the full spectrum.
Yes.
Yes. Like not just what happens at the part that is important for you or at the stage that you're at,
Right.
but throughout the entire lifespan, because then we can do the planning that is necessary so that we have the, last decade that we want.
Right. Right. I really, really appreciate that you said that we don't know our bodies. I really believe that that is a big part of who we are in our 40s, 50s, 60s, is that we are strivers, problem solvers, we are mothers, we are daughters of elderly parents, we are team leaders, we are leading organizations, voluntary. We are doing a lot with our lives, and we are what I call living outside of our bodies. And we are truly not aware of what's going on. And we are not able to really tune in, like you so beautifully said, Lisa, to what's really going on.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I would say I have experienced it myself, and not in the past tense. I experience it myself.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Is that our bodies are uncomfortable to be. particularly during times of transition. So sort of the line that I've been using recently is I help you feel at home in a body that is under renovation. Right. So that is that it's that feel of not understanding what is happening on the inside because we spend so much time in our brain.
Yes.
And then menopause happens and it forces us back into our bodies. And that can be a really challenging place to be.
Yes. Yes. And we, as many women are, fighters. And so we muscle. I can say that I can tend to do that. And I did it before I realized that I was in deep perimenopause. I was in stage 3 of menopause. That we fight, we muscle our way through. If we work harder, I grew up in a family where we work hard, we achieve success, however you want to define it. In our family, it was financial, and it was also title, and for me, it was degree in college. And so we're just fighters, and these are great things to be. It's a wonderful thing to be. I wouldn't be where I am today, helping women, if I wasn't a fighter. But right, sometimes we can't muscle through menopause.
No. And it's really important that you said that, because that when I look back now on some of my journey to where I am now, I think you and I have talked about the fact I was an educator for 20 years, and the last couple of years of my career were challenging for lots of reasons. But the last year in particular, I just didn't have the energy that I needed to keep fighting the way I had been fighting. And at the time, I was so disconnected from my body because I was so deeply in my brain about everything that I was experiencing that I missed all of the signals. And I will say I also had really good routines, right? So I got up every morning, I worked out, I ate really well, like I was doing all the things, but because I was so disconnected. And another realization I've had lately is that I use routine as an
Fascinating.
Because when you have really ingrained routines, that means you don't have to think or be present. Really? Right? So there's two sides of that coin. Like, yes, we want to have routines so that we have ingrained strategies that we know work for us, and be present to what's happening to your body in that time. Because what I was doing was muscling through. Even though I didn't have the energy, I kept muscling through because it's just what I did. Until I got to the point where I hit, oh, honey, you are no longer doing.
Yeah, you're losing. Yeah, and we haven't talked about the end of both of our your education, your academic career, and my corporate career. Someday we'll have another conversation about that. Mine did not end the way I expected it to end either.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I was in the beginning of my perimenopause transition as well, and I really love that you said you got into routine, and routine is a numbing agent. Routine is the beauty of acquiring new wellness habits. Because in our program, I teach a lot about the neuroscience of the brain and how the brain really loves new habits, not discipline and willpower, because we know willpower and discipline don't work. But you're right. It's so interesting to have something really traumatic happen in our lives, which happens again in this phase of life. We are looking head on at aging parents. We're looking at children, team members, or nieces, nephews who we're helping to care for. And it really feels good to take care of other people, doesn't it? You get a really big dopamine rush, and there's nothing wrong with that. But again, we continue to sort of distance ourselves from feeling the feeling.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And it is that really ingrained narrative that our value lies most in how we support other people.
Yes.
And I think it's really important that you're bringing up all of the confluence of circumstances that come together at this point in time. I was talking to somebody else who was on my show at one point who said the sort of late 40s, early 50s are the tightest squeeze because you're going through things that are, your body is under renovation, like I said earlier, and often we don't understand it or know what's happening.
Right.
You are caring for, yes, older children generally, and they are going through transitions. Like my own kids are My oldest currently is in Europe on his own solo European adventure.
Wow.
And so every time I walk past his empty room, I have this moment. And then my youngest just got his first acceptance to university. And so this time next year, we will be fully empty nesters, which is a huge transition. We are caring for, old aging parents. And in my case, a grandparent as well. So
Okay.
because my mom passed away when I was 30,
Okay.
which left me with the responsibility of caretaking for the family, for my dad and for her mom. So,
Lisa,
oh,
that's a lot at the age of 30 when you're supposed to be doing all these, supposed to be. But your body is primed for a lot of other things as well.
yes, exactly. And so I'd been carrying, the motherhood role, the matriarch role, the lead educator role for a long time. And then I hit this space where the muscling through wasn't working anymore. And so many of us are in that very similar position. Circumstances might be different, but we are trying to hold so many things in our hands while we are experiencing a transition that we.
Yes, and the home renovation, it's a home improvement. It's a home improvement project. I like
Yes.
to say the home renovation is a home improvement project.
Yes.
And there's so many benefits to being in this phase, particularly with regard to the brain. I mean, the brain is firing all these amazing neurotransmitters of wisdom. However, we do tend to keep that mask on too, right? We keep that mask on that everything's fine, because if we let things go, then we won't be able to care for others. And what in the world will we do if we actually we're vulnerable?
Yes.
Listen, I'm on the top of this one. And actually were vulnerable and said, yeah, I'm struggling right now. This is more than I can handle.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And saying those words out loud can be really, really hard and absolutely.
Yes. As we know.
Yes. But you only know that once you say the words out loud. Right. So it is that process of giving yourself permission to say, actually, I am not Superwoman. I am valuable because I am myself, not because of all the things that I do and all the people I care for. And there is so much programming we hold around that perspective being selfish. And and so that can be one of the biggest hurdles to overcoming to get to the space of I
need help. Yes. And the way we speak to others, as you said a minute ago, is also a reflection of how we're talking to ourselves.
Yes.
And really tuning into, I know you know about Dr. Kristen Neff and the amazing work she is doing on self-compassion. I am working on my own personal self-compassion practice. It is a journey, it is a struggle, but it has taken me to places I never thought it would be in terms of my own self-worth, my identity. So start to learn now. That's one of the things that we both believe, that learn now those strategies. They're going to take you into this beautiful life you still have left. Many years.
Yes.
And many experiences.
And a really beautiful life where it gets to be about you.
Yes.
Right? Which is the most exciting part, is that now I really I've got this foundation that I created, and now the story gets to be about me. I get to be the starring character in the next party.
Yeah. Very uncomfortable.
It can be very uncomfortable.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because again, as we know, it feels so good to care for others. We really literally get a hormone boost in our brain.
Yeah.
We don't get the same one when we take care of ourselves.
Yes.
We get others.
Yes. And I wonder if that is also, and maybe you know the answer to that, is that also sort of like a muscle, a brain muscle, where we can build that the more we give to ourselves and we see it of what giving to ourselves means, can we build that structure so that we do give ourselves that dopamine hit when we're like, hey, I did this thing. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, the science of habit works like a loop, as you know. And,
Yep.
you start with your trigger. And then if you want to develop, let's say we wanted to take on walking 30 minutes a day, which is something that we ask everyone in our program to do outside without tech and by yourself. So if your trigger is a time or location, so let's say it's 4 o'clock in the afternoon and that's the time, because time and location are very much important when it comes to forming new habits. So we have the trigger, it's 4 o'clock, or I'm in my office or I'm at home, whichever one. And then I form this habit that every time it's 4 o'clock, I'm in my office or I'm at home, that's the time. And my body gets used to it. So I'm going to say, I believe so, because the brain is so smart. I mean, the brain is more complicated, we know, than space. We
Yes.
have 170 billion neurons firing in our brain right now and while we sleep, as you know, which
Yes.
is my crazy passion to help women in menopause sleep.
Mm.
So yes, I do believe the habit of doing things for yourself definitely is worth everyone's while.
Absolutely. This is making me think about, a client recently just said to me, she's like, this is surprising,
Yeah, I know.
which made me laugh in the moment. But it led to a powerful conversation because she said, I've lived in a very academic world for a long time. And so all of this, like coaching or giving to yourself, has felt so airy fairy. But that person had come to that same place where they hit the wall and realized, I can't keep doing things the way I've always done them. And so when she said this is surprisingly effective, I said, I'll take that with all the lovely intention I know that it was meant with. And she's like, yeah, what I mean is me. And it's always that, right? Like recognizing that when you give to yourself,
Mhm.
you become a model also for the people,
We do.
right?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
That it's important that you yourself are important. You don't have to constantly abandon yourself or feel like you have to.
And in academia and with executive women, I work with a lot
Yes.
of executive women. I work with a lot of moms. We're role modeling.
Yeah.
We know that children learn more by watching us than by listening to us,
Oh,
right?
absolutely.
And so if we're in academia, we're executives, we're in the nonprofit world. I work with some folks in the nonprofit world, in the association community. We are leaders. And so the more we practice our own self-care habits, which can be 1 and 2 5-minute habits. That's
Mhm.
something I teach in our calendar program. It really does show others. And then it becomes almost like contagious.
Yes.
But we have to start somewhere.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I wanted to dig into that with you. So talk to me more about what it means to align your calendar with.
So if I were to look at your calendar, let's use you as a great example.
Mhm.
Sort of like we do with a financial planner. They look at our bank statements, they look at how we're spending money. And does that reflect our core values in our house? So if I were to look at your core values, let's just say family, faith, wellness, volunteerism, and relationships outside of your family, friendships. And if
Mhm.
I looked at your calendar, would I see that? So if we
Mhm.
want to align our lives with our core values, who we really are and what we want to be, then we have to look at our greatest asset, time.
Mhm.
Every minute of the day we lose. But let's look at it in a positive way. How we spend our time reflects who we are. Listen, who we spend our time with reflects who we are. We are the result of the 5 people with whom we spend the most time.
Yes.
Therefore, we believe in our program that if we really look deeply at how we value time, and because I'm a wellness program, if wellness is one of your priorities, and it is for all of our clients, then let's see where we can find 1 to 5 minute pockets of time. It could be walking away from your desk, walking away from the computer for 1 minute, laying down on the floor and taking 5 deep breaths. It
Mhm.
could be looking up a recipe for next week's dinner. It could be calling your mother. It could be 10 push-ups on the floor. It could be 10 push-ups on the counter. It could be 5 squats. We can do any kind of self-care within that 1 to 5 minute period of time. However, we really do need to make sure that we realize that we're doing this for us.
Yes. Yeah. And that is a really important foundation, I think, for when we are looking at building those habits, because we can live in that realm where it feels like we're doing it for ourselves, but when you really dig under that layer, we're actually doing it for someone else.
Right.
Right.
Exactly. It feels so good to serve others. Listen, I'm the biggest culprit. It's so
Yeah.
much easier. However, if we look at our lives in terms of if we wake up in the morning every morning, which I know I can do this and many of the women with whom I work do, the first thing we think about is the list of things we need to accomplish that day. And
Mm-hmm.
what are we thinking? Are we thinking about time with scarcity or in an abundance mindset? Am
Yes.
I looking at my day and saying, I actually have 16 hours to accomplish my to-do list? If again, I am getting my 8 hours of sleep.
Right.
It's a different way to look at your day instead of looking at your mile-long to-do list, which I would definitely love to work with someone on because we shouldn't have a mile-long to-do list.
Yes. Yeah.
There are a lot of ways to get to that. However, if we actually look at, we have this abundant amount of time to accomplish the things that are most important to us.
Yes. And I also would love to weave into that, like, what do you really want to do?
Yes.
Right. And when I reflect on my own practices, sometimes I get there and
Oh, yeah.
sometimes I don't. I think about yesterday. So which was a Monday, we had just, flown for almost 2 hours, get home Sunday evening, and I had a full day planned for Monday.
Of course you did.
Yeah.
Of course you did.
And I knew when I woke up Monday morning, I was like, why did I do this to myself?
Right.
And part of it was that scarcity mindset of, I just spent 10 days away. I need to now get back, and I need to get focused, and I need to get doing all the things.
Yes.
Especially because so I'm in a bit of a different place than you in terms of business building, where I'm right at the beginning of it.
Right.
So anytime I step away, I feel like, ooh, I have to get right there.
Yes.
And so building in that, again, going back to self-compassion and self-trust is really important, and it can be really hard. So if I look at my schedule yesterday, there were lots of things I did that I love. So that was fun.
Yeah.
And I also should have been asking myself, what do I actually want to do today? And what does my body actually need today? Because, by the time I accomplished all the things that were on my mile-long to-do list yesterday, I was
Right. And exhausted.
and exhausted. And I'm probably more tired today
Of course you are.
it was yesterday, and say, like, I know all of these things, and I
Yeah.
still get pulled into that narrative of produce, do, and
Yes.
disconnect and ignore your.
The productivity mindset that we have.
Mm-hmm.
It may be from earlier generations and it may be later generations after us, but I feel like the 45 to 65-year-old woman, maybe 40 to 70-year-old woman these days, I need to be productive today.
Yes.
I need to be productive. So maybe we redefine what productivity is
Yes.
out of that. I just literally thought of that. Because if productivity includes, I'm going to take about 30 minutes throughout my day, cumulatively, for
Mm-hmm.
walks, breathing, call my mother, write a letter to my daughter, self-care activities, then that's productive. Gratitude practice, right? I mean, all the things.
Yes.
And the things are, I would like to say early on, you said I was doing all the things. And I was doing all the things when I approached my perimenopause prison. I owned a strength training gym.
Yeah.
I had all access to the best of the best. I was practicing all of the different programs and exercise that were known to help you lose weight because I was gaining weight.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew all the best in the nutrition community, and I still was gaining weight. And I believe that women believe that if you have the right diet, I can't tell you how many times I hear, I eat clean.
Yeah.
What does that mean? Please share with me what that means, because we actually know a lot more about food and the impact and the implications of what we consume on our gut health.
Yes.
And I think it's a whole new world of research that is out there that is incredible. And it is not the stuff we learned from the past with the 1,200 calorie diets
No.
and the low fat, no fat, and no carbs. Carbs become the enemy. So we have to shift our mindset about this diet and exercise piece. And the cardiovascular, I've got to get my cardio in. Those two pieces are exercise and food are part of my wellness wheel, as you know, my wellness wheel.
Yeah.
However, there's much more to our wellness and our health and our longevity and really our happiness.
Yes. Yes. And I think that that is an important, like, that's a key that we have not put in the lock of any of these conversations, right? Is happiness.
Right.
And it, Sam Wynn, who's a Canadian menopause coach as well, and she's done a lot in the wellness world. She's really brilliant. And she was taught how it's such a scarcity mindset to live in that calorie world. And that it's so damaging and it's impossible to sustain because there's a lack of joy in it, right?
And measuring your food, whether you're physically measuring or we're measuring, it's terrible what it does to our brain.
It is terrible. And it breaks my heart to hear the way people speak about food. Yes. And it is in such a restrictive way, or that they beat themselves up like, oh, well, I shouldn't eat this piece of cake. Like, eat the cake.
Yeah. Or I've got to go work out really hard tomorrow because I need to make up for what I did, which again, as we now know, it doesn't work that way. It's not a calories in, calories out. Our bodies are not made that way. We are not a machine.
No.
Where you put in cake and then you get on the treadmill and you run for that number of calories. There's so many other parts that go into our body composition, well beyond calories.
Oh, absolutely. And it's the quality of the food that you're eating, like the energetic feel of that food. Sure. And how it's serving you. I remember having a conversation with my uncle who was a physician, and he pulled out this box of like sugary cereal from his cupboard, and he was like, oh, well, this is the caloric intake. And, it's the same as this.
No. With that. No.
No.
I know, because it was the calorie count, right?
Yes.
I know. And that's where, food labels can be 25% off.
Yes.
They can be 25% off. Our government will allow food labels to be 25% off. People don't know that.
Yeah. And that is significant.
It is.
Yes.
And, I really appreciate you brought that up, Lisa, too, because we often believe, and I am a big fan of the medical community. I cannot imagine having that vacation and going through the schooling they go through, and then the student loans, and then the conditions they work, and they have this passion to help people. Most of them, that's what they want to do, right? However, they don't learn lifestyle medicine. They don't know. Your doctor does not know the food. They still believe it's the food pyramid or the food plate, the plate. Yeah. And so you need to do your research beyond your doctor and focus on, again, I would say focus on the 5 and the sleep. I mean, when was the last time any doctor asked you about your sleep?
I will say I am one of the lucky ones who has a brilliant doctor.
Oh, fabulous.
Which I feel very grateful for.
I do too. I know.
Because she always has. When I have a physical with her, it's extensive, and she asks all those questions, and she asks about relationships. She asks about the holistic perspective, which is beautiful. And I also recognize, that's why I'm always so grateful for her, and I will always shout out Dr. Kim McIntosh because she's brilliant.
That's amazing.
And I was listening to an episode of Armchair Expert, and I can't remember who the expert who was on, but was talking about the medical system, because I agree with you. The people who are in it are there with good intentions, but the system that we have currently is focused on disease.
Yes.
Yes. So it's focused on treatment, it's focused on disease, it is not focused on prevention. And
Prevention.
this expert
Mhm.
was talking about that
Yeah.
where we need to go, like medicine 2.0 needs to be on wellness and prevention. Like,
Right.
yes, we need to know how to treat disease when they occur,
For sure.
but our focus really needs to be on how do we care for our bodies so
Right.
that we can put that off for as long as possible.
Right. Yeah, like Dr. Peter Attia. He's
Yes,
doing
I love it.
amazing work. I mean, he's going to, I'm sure, train a bunch of other professionals in the community. And
Yes.
I would also like to add that oftentimes when women go to their OBGYN, who they would be the natural person that most women would believe, I need to go to my OB to talk about, I'm having these night sweats, hot flashes, I don't feel good.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times your OB was not schooled in menopause.
No.
And many medical students, medical graduate school graduates will say that they are not confident talking to women about menopause because they were not trained.
Yes.
So we were talking about the medical community. I think the medical schools need to wake up to this phase. I mean, we're half of the population.
Yes.
So
Yes.
it's time.
It
And let's
is
leave
well
it
past
to our
time.
kids. I mean, let's leave it to our kids that they go through the system very different, where they learn
Yes.
about this early on.
Yeah. And I think I've said this probably 1,000 times, and it's worth continuing to say, I do feel like it is the work of women of our generation.
It is. Yeah.
It is to make this space to say, this is what this part of womanhood looks like. This is what it can feel like. These are all the things that we can do to feel really good during time.
Yeah.
And leave it in a space that is better than
Yes, is the
yes.
vocation again. It's our duty.
Yeah.
It's our
Yes.
duty to the next generation.
Yeah, I agree. And one of the conversations I've been having a lot with women is around resistance training and
Yeah.
why it is so very powerful to our health. And I'm met with skepticism a lot of the time. I don't know what your experience is, but I'd love for you to
Yeah.
talk. I'd love for you to talk to that.
I don't even know where to start because I have such a, I've been doing this for a long time. As I mentioned, I did own a strength training gym before, and I've always been very much interested in exercise, and I am not normal. That is not, most women have some exercise, the word, by the way, has pejorative connotations for many women.
Yes.
It can be from the schoolyard when they were 10. It could be going through the presidential physical fitness session. It could be being called out in a fitness session where they were embarrassed. So I actually have already have changed that word in my program, and I've called it movement
Mm-hmm.
because I really believe, and also in the strength community, we call exercise movement
Yes.
because the way we move our bodies throughout the day is just as important as what we do in the gym or wherever you carve out at your home.
Absolutely.
So resistance training, what is it? It is any time when we are pushing our body against a force. Our body alone is a perfect tool for resistance training. We don't have to use heavy weights. We have our own body. So we can really work our way into pushing against a force and creating this beautiful cacophony of our nervous system, which is really what is working. Our nervous system is telling our muscles what to do. We have this thought that our muscles are doing this work in isolation. We don't really know our bodies. So we're telling our nervous system to do these really cool things with our muscles. And why do we need to do that in this part of our lives particularly? We begin to atrophy, our muscles begin to atrophy at the age of 30. Our bones, the density also begins to decline, and our bone flexibility.
Mm-hmm.
Our bones need to be flexible. All three of those things are happening earlier than you think. So we first of all need to do is for longevity, because imagine if you can't reach down to the floor to pick up your glasses that you dropped. This is a very regular occurrence in the elderly.
Mm-hmm.
Elderly fall in large part because of lack of balance and lighting.
Yes.
How you fall, I don't know why that happens on my screen. It's a new thing. fall. I guess that was the cue. So
Those
what
of you who can't see, balloons just went up on our
I just
screen.
got balloons. Look at
Falling.
these thumbs up, big bubbles coming up.
Yeah.
So what happened, first of all, we're doing it for preventative reasons
Yes.
because we don't want to fall. Women fall. The preponderance of women falling when we are elderly is shockingly high. The problem when we fall is we don't know how to fall, and we teach that in my program, and we don't know how to get up. So if we have muscles to somewhat cushion the fall, or at least if we've practiced how to fall, because the chances of you slipping and falling are huge. Okay, so first of all, we want to prevent it. If we can't prevent it, we want to know how to do it. And the third thing is we want to be able to get up from
Yes.
the floor. And these are all, this is mobility, this is strength, this is balance. Again, things that we can get through strength training. Strength training, too, is not completely separate from cardiovascular training.
Exactly.
Another one of my big microphones I want to get out to the world of women is you don't have to separate the two. Trust me, work with me. When we do strength training, we are getting that heart rate elevated to the point where I have women begging for a break. And I'm thinking, almost. So you can get both at the same time. You can generate all these beautiful neurons that are going to fire your muscles. And what is going to happen with your muscles is they somewhat break apart. So when we exercise, our muscles break apart a little bit. And it's in the repair that they grow.
Yes.
We get increased immunity from more muscle. Our hormones are balanced greater with muscle. So we're less sick. Our hormones are much happier. They're balanced, and it actually helps you digest food. There are many, many more. But for women who are struggling through this period, it is the best, outside of sleep, weight loss and weight maintenance program out there. It's the most incredible. Strength begets strength. So when we get strong, I truly believe our decisions about how we spend our time and who are we serving and what is our path forward. Our path is stronger because we've made stronger decisions. And I believe it can begin with strength physically. And it doesn't have to be, like I said earlier, a lot of weight. Now, I am a fan of lifting heavy weight because it shocks the system. And we're actually built primally to lift heavy things, to carry heavy things, to pull heavy things, and to hang and to throw heavy things overhead. We're supposed to be doing that.
Mm-hmm.
We are not doing that. So I am a big believer in functional fitness, which that is what it is. It's push, pull, carry, balance, and hang.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And all these things are amazing on the body. You feel like $1 million after.
Do you ever? And it is it can be challenging to know where the starting point is because they're all so interconnected, right? If you're sleeping better, then it's easier to work out.
Yes.
And if you are getting movement, it increases the quality of your sleep.
Yes.
So one of the places I do, yes, it is the wheel. All the things are connected.
Yes.
And if you are really struggling, it is a powerful place to start.
It is.
Putting focus on movement because it will affect. When I lift heavy weights, my body it forces me into my body so that I am listening to it.
Great point.
It tells me that it needs more protein. So I'm more motivated to eat protein-rich foods, which fuel my muscle repair.
Yes.
Because I am doing this kind of exertion during the day, I sleep really well at night.
Yes, you do.
And it is so good for my mental health.
Yes.
Right? The endorphin release that happens makes me feel great at the end. When I'm lifting heavy weights, it makes me feel powerful. And I will say, so I'd alluded to, I'd just gotten home from a trip from Europe. And I was so grateful for my strength training on that trip because I could carry all my luggage and I could
Yeah.
hoof it up all the hills
Yeah.
in that I was going up and down. And there was nothing that I felt with her because I had this foundation of functional that set me free.
Lisa, you've hit a point that I often think, but I don't say it as beautifully as you did. You're limitless. I don't, when someone asks to carry something for me, no, I'm good. I don't need anyone to carry anything for me most of the time.
Yeah.
And it's such a confidence boost to know I
Yes.
can carry anything. I can throw anything over my head. If I had to, I could probably carry my children, who are both much taller than me and way more than I do. Yes, in an emergency, it used to be my goal when I had the twins and Bill was traveling extensively.
Right.
My goal was to get strong enough so I could carry them up and down stairs in case of emergency. And I can probably do that. Not both of them at the same time. You really, you said you need to live in your body. So when you lift a heavy weight, it corrects everything. In the gym, when I work with women in the gym, it corrects everything when they lift something heavy because the body's saying, we're serious. And all of the benefits of muscle. There's so many benefits of muscle.
Yes. Yeah. It's unending almost, right?
It's
And it is.
unending. It is.
Yeah. And it connects us to one of the things I'm going to restart this a little bit. So I was a runner at one point in my life.
Me too.
Yeah. So I was a runner for quite some time. And then it was my massage therapist who finally said to me, Lisa, your body would thank you if you stopped running. Because it was really hard. And I know this is not the case for everyone. It was for me, however. It was really, really hard on my knees and my hips and my ankles. And so everything was always out of alignment because I was constantly, shifting and changing to try to accommodate for these. And when I would go up and down stairs, my knees would creak and grow, like all the things. And it was then that I shifted into doing more resistance training and weight bearing movement because I loved the impact of that kind of intense movement on my mental health.
Absolutely.
And so I wanted something that would continue to keep that up. And moving into resistance training changed everything. Like everything about my body felt so much better. My knees stopped grinding when I was going up and down stairs.
Sure.
My alignment was better. My strength was better. And like you said earlier, my cardiovascular fitness remained strong because I am, breathing hard and my heart rate is up.
Yes.
And I'm lifting the weights.
Yeah.
And it makes you feel so powerful.
It does.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. That's good for you because it does happen that we believe, again, our generation, I was a runner. Actually, I do occasionally still run, but it's more to prove to myself that I can do a certain distance in a certain time or a certain number of hills. And then I'm done I'm done. I just prefer, and it's hard on our joints. However, you can get the very same feeling, that euphoria from a strength training workout. You just need to take your time learning. As you said, you start small. You start really small. I have all of our clients start with the sit rise test, every one of them.
Okay.
Get up and down from the floor without using your hands. Many women will need the use of some assistance of the wall or in their home on a couch or a chair. But what are we doing? We're utilizing balance, mobility, flexibility, strength, and cardiovascular health. If I ask you to get up and down from the floor 10 to 20 times, yeah, your heart rate is elevated and you don't need anything, any equipment. If you have a pre-existing condition, a knee issue, or you've got shoulder, we can always work around it. But that's another thing. We've touched on some really interesting topics. Pain versus discomfort.
Yes.
So a lot of women, many women come into our program, and I've met thousands of women now working with women one-on-one and in groups, and they come with a fear. And when something doesn't feel right, they want to stop and run away from it. And as we know in our practice of a lot of other things in our lives, when we run away from the problem, it doesn't run away from you. So really digging into what is that, since we're talking about strength training, we'll stick with strength training. That's easier. What is bothering you? What does it really feel like? Is your joint just saying, I'm having a party. I'm actually moving the way I'm supposed to move now. You're getting your squat below parallel for the first time since you were 10. Sure, your knees are tight, your muscles are tight, your tendons are tight, your cartilage is tight. Everything in there is tight. Go with it. Hold on to something, but be aware of, I believe there's a 1 to 10 scale of pain versus discomfort.
Mm-hmm.
It can be uncomfortable. Can you feel uncomfortable when you're doing a push-up on the floor? Oh yeah, I can too.
Yeah.
Something
Mm-hmm.
feels funky? Do I do another 20? No, but I pay attention to it. Live in your body.
Live in your body. Yes,
Yes.
that is the, I feel the most important thing to take away from this. And like you said, thank you for bringing that up, the pain versus discomfort,
Yes.
because that's a conversation I enter into a lot as well, is that yes, this,
Yeah.
it's things most things are at some point that have a really
Yes.
positive impact on us are uncomfortable at
They
one
are.
point or another.
Yes.
And it is the ability to embrace that,
Yes.
that allows us to build that sense of power, and
Yes.
that eventually,
Right.
right? And that, I think, is the other element that we don't always talk about when we're talking about movement, is that yes, it can be discomfort,
Yeah.
and it can also feel like play. Like,
Yes.
it's my favorite way to start the day, because I put on a jammin' playlist
You go, girl.
and dance a little bit and lift and sweat, and it feels fun. And just to wrap up, going back to that trip that I just came home with, I was able to play with my 19 and 17-year-old
Oh
boys,
yeah.
right?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
he's running up the hills and I'm running right
Oh yeah.
behind him, and it's fun and it's playful. And like you said, it allows us to be limitless.
Limitless. Yes, I do the same with our teens. They'll ask me to race. Okay, let's
Yeah.
do it. All right, you want to do some pull-ups? All right, let's do some pull-ups. Yeah, and it's that whole sense of accomplishment and freedom.
Freedom. Absolutely.
Freedom. And again, back to, let's not run away from our problems. Let's not run away from the pain and the discomfort. That doesn't mean, I have a woman in our program right now, near and dear to my heart, Tracy. She's injured. She fractured her fibula,
Oh no.
skate accident, and let me just say, she's incredibly fit.
Yeah.
How quickly is her recovery going to go? Because she's fit? Probably half the time of a woman who is not fit.
Yes.
Did she stop exercise because she's in crutches and a boot? No. No, 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 no. Do not stop. Another message. Please continue to find something to do. And she told me yesterday, I feel so good knowing I can do so much still. A lot of it is on the floor because she can't be weight bearing on that leg yet. But please don't stop exercising if you have an injury. I mean, there are
Yes.
certain circumstances where a doctor will say, I don't want you to, shoulder surgery or something like that for a few weeks. Fine. But after that, really fight your doctor about what's going to happen if after 2 weeks I do. Ask questions.
Yes.
Ask questions in that doctor's office.
Yeah. And because that is the way that we take back, that we aim for agency,
Yes.
right? That
Again,
we, yeah,
agency.
exactly. We've come full
Right from the
circle.
very beginning. You talked about this at the very beginning. You go, girl. You've got this all orchestrated in your head, even with limited sleep and the 24 hours of flying yesterday. Yeah, it's true.
Yes. Yeah. Adrien, thank you so much for being here today. This was such a fun conversation, full of so many gems that people can take away and really begin to work on. And if you are interested in working with Adrien, all of her contact information and any relevant links will, of course, be in the show notes. And thank you for sharing your wisdom today.
Lisa, it has been a really wonderful blast being with you today. Welcome back from your
Thank you.
travels, and an honor to be with you today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, be strong.
Thank you for joining us on this transformative journey today. Your support means the world to me. If you resonated with our conversations and want to uplift the Transforming 45 community, here's what you can do. 1, subscribe and share. Hit that subscribe button so you never miss an episode. And if you found value here, share it with your friends, family, and anyone seeking inspiration. 2, leave a review. On whatever platform you are listening on, your words can make a significant impact and help others find their way to these transformative stories. 3, connect. Join the conversation on my social media platforms. Follow me at lboat for updates, behind the scenes, and more heart-centered content. And 4, guest recommendations. If you know someone whose story could inspire someone else, reach out and let me know. I love connecting with diverse voices that carry the power to transform lives. Remember, it is your support that is the magic in my mission. Together, we can create a community of empowerment, growth, and healing. Thank you for being part of the Transforming 45 family. Until next time, keep shining your light and embracing your journey.